Greetings and welcome to I Care Leadership Live. I'm Mike Lyons. I'm the host of the show, and this week we've got Sheikh Ali. He is an expert on LinkedIn. If you've ever wanted to be more active on LinkedIn or wondered why you don't get enough engagement or how can you make the most of LinkedIn, this episode is absolutely one of my instant favorites because of the knowledge that Sheikh shares with us. Give a listen. I'm sure you'll get some useful information from it. Now, here's the show. Today, my guest is Sheikh Ali. Sheikh, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Mike. I'm so excited to be here, and you're looking sharp in that fedora, my friend.
Well, I always aim to impress, so I appreciate the compliment.
Sure.
Thanks for being on the show. I always like to start out by asking my guests about what they do and why they do it. So why don't we just start with that?
I work with clinician and healthcare executives to help build their authority on LinkedIn and then use that as an avenue to drive business-to-business partnerships. So the reason for that is because I had noticed that there was a void in terms of building LinkedIn for these clinician and healthcare executives. And so my business really helps address that need. But my bigger goal, Mike, and this is something that has kind of evolved on its own, is that I now have people that are outside those spheres that say, I'm looking at LinkedIn differently because of what you're doing. And for me, that's such a compliment, and I'm so honored by that. And so I'm excited to talk more about it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I love healthcare. You love healthcare. And I think we both love LinkedIn. But, I have to say, I think I maybe have a love-hate relationship to some extent, because sometimes I feel like LinkedIn is like a bad relationship where I put all the energy in, but she don't love me back. And and so that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on. And I'm sure you're seeing that, right, with a lot of the conversations that you have. But maybe stepping back, I think a lot of us maybe take this for granted, that, oh, you're supposed to be on LinkedIn and like everyone's there, everybody's doing it, right? But if I am a healthcare executive, or if I'm a clinician, I might be thinking, if I'm a clinician, oh, I just have to do surgery well. I've got to be good with my patients. Like, why do I need to care about LinkedIn? What would you say?
If you're a clinician, I think it depends on what your goals are. Because the specific subset of marketing, so let's kind of go back for a moment. Marketing is kind of split into two different subsets. You have your more business to business marketing, and then you have more your patient acquisition marketing. So LinkedIn is not, I repeat, it is not the best platform for patient acquisition. And I have two colleagues of mine that are great collaborators that I work with who handle the patient acquisition. So if I have a clinician who comes to me and says, Sheikh, I need help getting more patients, I tell them immediately, I say, I'm sorry, I can't help you, but I have these two that can help you with that. Now, where my value proposition comes in more is in the business to business relationships. So for example, if you have a clinician, and I know that ophthalmologists are a big audience of this particular podcast. So if you're an ophthalmologist and you own a practice and you're looking to network with fellow ophthalmologists, whether that be in your area or nationally, number one. Number two, if you want to network also with ophthalmology medical device people, because that is a big, huge part of the ophthalmology practice, is the equipment and the devices that they use. So if you want to network with executives from that specific subset, or if you just want to become what's called a digital opinion leader and build your personal brand, gain opportunities for speaking engagements, all of those goals are where LinkedIn can really help you out. So first of all, being very intentional, and this is always my advice to myself and to my clients, make sure you have a goal in mind, make sure you have certain intention in mind in terms of why you want to be on LinkedIn, and then kind of go from there.
Okay. Well, yeah, there's no doubt it's a powerful way of communicating and getting your name out there. As I said, it can be tough to figure out, there's probably a lot of things that we're all doing wrong. And maybe we kind of stumble into some right things. We were talking before we started recording about a particular post, and you were getting crazy engagement on it. I'm sitting there going, what is he doing? Like, is he paying people to do this? Like, help me out here. And so maybe like let's start with some things that like people get wrong. Like what are a couple things that people just do wrong on LinkedIn in an attempt to get some notice or get their name out there or whatever.
The three biggest mistakes that I see for people, for clinicians and healthcare executives who are now starting on LinkedIn is, first of all, they think that LinkedIn is a place to find a job and to post your resume. That is 2008 thinking. That is not 2026 thinking. And so the platform has become a much more robust and dynamic, and we can get more into the nitty-gritty tactics in a little bit. Yeah. So that's number one. Number two, the other thing that they do wrong is they talk too much about themselves, and they're not talking about enough what value they are providing for their ideal audience. So the very first step in deciding what your LinkedIn is going to look like and what your strategy is deciding who your target audience is. Because if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. And so having that deliberate targeted audience is really important in order to grow successfully on the platform. And then the third thing kind of going along with that is the headline, which is the group of text that appears underneath your name. The vast majority of clinician and healthcare executives, they put their job title instead of putting I help X do Y in Z setting. So when you put something specific like that, you're being very intentional with your LinkedIn strategy and with who you're targeting that audience. And you're making your profile a value proposition to them rather than about, oh, look at me, look at me, look at me. So those are three things that people could do. Those are three action steps that people can do to help get over those misconceptions.
Okay. Those are some good, those are common mistakes, I think, that I see a lot of people, making. Kind of going back to the example or the thought of like a physician out there who is trying to get their name out there and connect with others. Is there maybe an example of someone that you've worked with that had good outcomes with using LinkedIn to get their name out there?
Yes. So I worked with, earlier in 2025, I worked with a surgeon, an academic surgeon, and he's also an expert witness. So he has his toes, his feet dabbled into the medical legal world. And I helped him build out his LinkedIn so that it would target more medical malpractice and personal injury attorneys, along with legal nurse consultants, because he's a physician. And so sometimes he has to work with the legal nurse consultants to handle more the nursing aspect or viewpoints of these cases that he receives. And as a result of working with me, of our work together, really, because it's really the client and I that do the work together. I mean, I can only do so much. I can only guide them so far. Yeah. But thanks to working with me, there were three major outcomes. Number one, he had clarity of vision. He knew exactly, okay, this is what I need to do, X, Y, and Z to grow on LinkedIn. That's number one. Number two, his messaging and his content was much more cogent. So it was appealing more to those attorneys and to those legal nurse consultants. And then number three, he was able to build a robust network of medical malpractice and personal injury attorneys, which led to more cases for him. And then as kind of like a side product of building his personal brand, he was able to also see more speaking engagements. So he started to get more invites. Can you come on this podcast? Can you come and speak at this conference? And so he was really able to build out his authority strategically on LinkedIn doing that.
Cool. Yeah. It seems like there's no doubt, you do the right things and you get the engagement, but those right things are sometimes kind of hard to figure out, and so is there, I've heard people talk about an algorithm, right? There's some algorithm in terms of what content you see, and there's an algorithm for what content you put out there gets disseminated. And I've heard people say, well, it's the time of day and the direction of the wind or whatever. Is there a way that you can utilize this algorithmic process to get things right, or is it just kind of like following a routine?
The algorithm is known for being very elusive. And it does change. And actually, recently, there were some algorithmic changes that happened June of 2025 in particular. However, there are certain tactical strategies that you can use in order to gain more traction on LinkedIn. So I'm gonna list a few just to give people some more tangible examples here.
Yeah.
Number one, I always recommend to myself and to my clients to post from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. Reason being, because people always want a why, especially our scientific community. They always want, why is this? Why is this? So the why behind that is because the vast majority of people on LinkedIn, because it's a business to business platform, they're professionals. And so when they come into the office in the morning, that's when they tend to look at LinkedIn the most, as opposed to some of the other platforms where it's more after hours, because those platforms are more recreational rather than business. That's number one. The second thing is when it comes to the algorithm itself, there's something that we call the golden hour. So that is the first hour after you post. LinkedIn scans the caption that you write. And we'll talk more about post formatting in a minute, but LinkedIn scans that caption and it tries to match your content with a subgroup of people within your first degree connections that would find that post most appealing. And so it pushes it out to them first. So it's kind of like a small test sample, right? And then after about 30 minutes, LinkedIn waits, because it waits to see, are people liking and are people commenting, and are you responding to those comments as they're coming in? Because if you're responding to those comments within that first 30 minutes to an hour as they're coming in, then LinkedIn sees it as, okay, this person is actually engaging with his or her audience. And so being there for what I call that golden hour and engaging is critical. Once LinkedIn sees that the content is starting to spread out and people are receptive to it, then it's going to start pushing it out to more people and more people and more people. So it's a very incremental process. And so it's very common to see that when you post on, let's say I post today, it's very common that in your notifications, you'll get likes and comments 2, 3, 4, 5 days from now, because LinkedIn is still pushing out your content incrementally in the method that I described. So that's just one of many different ways. And, the algorithm is constantly changing, but it's good because it keeps me in business and it keeps me on my toes. So that's good. Yeah. Well, and of course, it's of value to my clients too. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me just take a minute and adjust all my posts that I have scheduled to fit in that time frame.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I started doing this, but I've been doing them at like 6 a.m. for some reason, on the thought that like, oh, it's going to be the first thing they see, but not true. Not true, it sounds like. This show is sponsored by Seasoned Advice HR Services, where I help clinical healthcare businesses to make more money and save more money by hiring better, retaining better, and reducing your HR risk. If you would like an HR assessment or ongoing HR support, please reach out to me at seasoned-advice.com. I want to do something a little bit different here. I call this the speed round. Okay. So I'm going to list out some maybe LinkedIn strategies that people have tried. Not me, of course. And then you can either tell me that's hot or that's not a good strategy. Okay. So this is our speed round. So the first one is unfollowing people that are not in your target audience.
Not.
Okay. Not. Using video and reels in your posts.
Hot.
Okay. What about using like a platform like AimFox that automates connections?
Not. Definitely not. Definitely not.
Wow. And we're going to come back to some of these for a second.
Sure, because I do want to go into detail about some of them. Because there's a lot of nuance there, but let's go.
Not that long ago, I heard someone say that polls are the thing to do. Polls, hot or not?
Hot.
Okay, so a little bit of a qualified hot there. And then I guess last one is mixing in a good amount of personal posts as opposed to business related.
Hot.
Okay, awesome. Well, I detected that we need to go back on some of those.
I would say all of them, really.
So what jumps to mind on some of those?
Can you go in order of the list that you mentioned?
Yeah, so mass unfollowing or just unfollowing not relevant people.
I would say that after the first 500 connections, you should be more intentional with who you add. But in terms of unfollowing those that have already joined or that were part of your first 500, I don't think it's necessary. So it's really a combination of both. The goal is to get to 500 as quickly as you can, just because that increases your reach in terms of the post and your outreach capability. But once you pass that 500, then be much more intentional with who you accept.
Yeah. Okay. Next one was about video.
Right. So video at the beginning of 2025 was really gaining a lot of traction. LinkedIn was going all in on it. But what we've noticed is that since the middle of 2025, so around June, July, LinkedIn started to claw back a little bit on video. And so I think that video should be a part of your strategy, but I do not think it should be your only strategy. I still do believe that LinkedIn prioritizes the written word over videos. I posted probably 90% of all my content is static photo and long form caption as opposed to video, but video can still be advantageous as well. So again, I don't discredit it. I think it's very important. It should be part of your strategy, but it shouldn't be the only thing that you're posting.
Okay.
Yeah.
At one time I was doing all the wrong things. Let me just say that.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Trust me. I was like that too. Like it took me about 9 months to really get 9 months of consistent posting and not a lot of engagement to really get the traction that I'm getting now. So it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Okay. This is one that's sort of popular, I think, with people I'm talking to. AimFox. So automating connections and drip campaigns and things like that.
It is against the LinkedIn terms and conditions to scrape data. And those automated softwares oftentimes do it. So I recommend both to myself and to my clients always a manual approach. And the goal is to focus more on quality rather than quantity connections.
Quality, yeah. Absolutely makes sense. Okay. Next one that we brought up was polls.
Yeah, so polls they can be useful to get a little bit more engagement, but again, very much like the video, if I were to prioritize the order of what is more important in terms of content as opposed to least important based on everything that we've discussed, I would prioritize it as follows. Most important, static photo, long form caption, or PDF carousels. So a carousel that's more educational in nature, because LinkedIn is at its core still an educational as opposed to an entertainment platform like some of the other social media platforms. So I would say that's number one. Number two would definitely be video, because there's an audio visual appeal that you may not necessarily get with written content. So I would prioritize that as second, and then the polls would be last priority. So I know some of my connections tend to do polls more on like Friday or on the weekend or non-business days. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that's kind of like more of a fun. Yeah, I'm not seeing a ton of engagement on polls personally.
Yeah, I did them at one point for a little bit, but I stopped a long time ago.
And then last one, personal posts, just about your life, I guess.
My recommendation always is 80-20 rule. So 80% should be more about business or about or about your field or what you're doing in healthcare or what speeches you're giving or anything like that, or positioning yourself strategically, professionally. But I do think that 20% of it should be personal. So for me, I've become known now. I've been called the James Bond of LinkedIn, but I've also called myself that too. but that's just, and we can talk about branding after, but that's just an extension of me. I've been a Bond fan for over 20 years. So before social media existed, I was a Bond fan. So I just kind of incorporated that into my story. And then also people love that I love fountain pens. That's a big passion of mine. Like how you're a hat collector, I'm a fountain pen collector.
Yeah.
And so those little personal quirks, that's definitely going to make you stand out. So it could be a part of your strategy, but I don't think that it should be the vast majority, because at the end of the day, LinkedIn is still a business to business platform. But those personal ones, they oftentimes do a little bit better. So yeah.
Before we go on, I just want to say, if anyone has a question or a comment for Sheikh, you're watching live on LinkedIn, and if you put a comment in the little comments area, we'll see your question or your comment. If you want to say hi to Sheikh, compliment him on his jacket or whatever, then I'm sure he would love to see that. What I wanted to, you talked about your love of fountain pens, and I have to say, I have had one post in maybe this whole year that has gotten more engagement than any other one, and you saw it. It was a post. It wasn't even my post. I reposted another person's post about pens.
Oh, I remember that.
What was your favorite pen? I'm actually using a Pilot G2 right now. This was one of the ones, but just it had about 5 or 7 like ordinary pens, and I had so many comments. Had nothing to do with HR, had nothing to do with healthcare. Few comments. I had probably 600 engagements on it, and I'm like, dude, like, what the hell? What happened there, Shay? Can you give me some insight there? And did that help me at all in my business, for example?
Great question. So when it comes to virality, it's very interesting because oftentimes the viral post doesn't convert to business or convert to sales. But what it does do is it does get eyeballs on your profile. Yeah. And so oftentimes those posts that get a ton of traction and that go viral, oftentimes they allow those eyeballs to veer more towards your value written posts, like what we were talking about before. Yeah. And so I do think that it's advantageous sometimes to have a little personal quirk there because it sets you apart, it makes you unique and it allows people to resonate with it more. And I would not be surprised if after watching this podcast, people say, Sheikh, I love that you love pens, and they don't mention anything about my business or what I do or LinkedIn strategy or anything like that. So it's good. But as I said, it shouldn't dominate your feed. As long as it's a small but important part of your strategy, but it's not the entire content strategy, you're fine. You're okay. And I remember I commented on that too. And I said, we need to get you a nice fountain pen. So, so when I come and visit you in Texas, we'll go to the Galleria Mall and we'll go to the Mont Blanc store and we'll go shopping.
Sounds good. Well, I think there might be a hat post coming up in my feed in the near future.
Yeah, you're like the Cedric the Entertainer of LinkedIn. So
there you go. So you know what, we have had a couple comments, so I'm going to go ahead and throw one in there. So Milan says, Shay, can you speak to the difference of writing a post versus writing an article? LinkedIn doesn't offer user-friendly actions like Microsoft Word might to make it look good. I don't know. Can you talk about posts, articles, all that?
So articles are a great way to go more in depth on LinkedIn in terms of whatever post or whatever content you're discussing. But my recommendation actually for Milan is to start a newsletter. So I think that starting a newsletter, whether it be on, I know that Substack and Beehive are the two common ones. I think that starting a newsletter is a great way to build your own alternative audience. I know I'm the LinkedIn person, but it's a good way to build your own alternative audience and to go much more in depth. Because I have found personally that my posts get more traction than any article. I don't think I've even written an article on LinkedIn. So my recommendation is to stick more with the posts because people's attention span is so short that the posts are going to be a more effective way to reach out to your audience successfully. So save the articles for more of a Substack or a Beehive, and then the post itself, definitely dial those in and make those quality posts on LinkedIn. And that's another thing too. I recommend quality over quantity when it comes to LinkedIn. You do not have to post every day. I know people who do and they're successful at it, but for me personally, I post 2 to 3 times a week. That's it. But I make sure that they're high quality posts.
Okay. Well, this conversation is already shaping my to-do list for today. Because
Great. I'm glad.
I was planning on doing like taking a blog I had done and putting it into the newsletter or the article.
Make it a post instead. What you should do is split it up into 3 different LinkedIn posts and tackle like one main idea per post. So now you've got 3 pieces of content. Boom.
Okay. Man. Okay. Adding tons of value here. Okay. Dr. Olga here is asking about AI photos, like, images of yourself, even like whatever action shot here. I'm a doctor, what's the usefulness there?
Well, first of all, when it comes to the patients, obviously we have to follow HIPAA. So it depends on the situation. I can't really opine much of that, but I will say that pictures of yourself and pictures of yourself that are not AI generated, so professionally taken, or even if it's just you, like I live in Florida, so being near the beach and taking a picture by the beach, that always tends to get more traction on LinkedIn than just a random picture. That's number one. Number two, when it comes to AI generated photos, LinkedIn puts a little icon in the top left-hand corner, and we don't know for sure, but LinkedIn tends to deprioritize that a little bit because they see that there's AI there. While if I'm just posting a picture of myself, it comes across as more authentic and more organic. So yeah.
Okay, so keep it natural
Mm-hmm.
is the way to go
My
there.
recommendation is just take 4 to 5 pictures of yourself and then recycle them. That's what I do.
Okay.
Literally what I do.
Yeah, I've done some of that myself. All right, another question here from
Hi,
Kat
Kat.
asking about DM outreach and like taking things beyond the feed, which is definitely something I've done with mixed results. So I don't know, tips on that and your perspective there.
First of all, Kat, one of my closest friends, great to see you. Secondly, when it comes to outreach, first of all, it goes back to knowing who your audience is, because if you don't know who your target audience is, you're not going to know who you're outreaching to. So that's number one. But number two, my recommendation in order to make outreach more effective is twofold. Number one, I recommend commenting on the person's posts first before you even connect with them, before you even add them as a connection. That's number one. And number two, if they're looking at your profile, but they have not engaged with it, I recommend sending a customized connection request saying, thank you for looking at my profile, so-and-so, whoever, whatever their name is, looking forward to connecting with you. So I have done that. I did that up till this morning. And that tends to enable them to accept your connection request, number one, because they're like, oh, he's actually seeing who's looking at my profile. That's number one. And number two, in terms of building that rapport, I recommend looking at something on their profile that sticks out to you. So again, we come back to kind of the whole personal branding thing. Find something, maybe it's where they went to school, maybe it's a location, and try and use that to warm up the conversation. And then afterwards, it leads into business. So pro tip, an action tip for right now, since we're recording this on December 22nd, ask them what their plans are for the holidays. Keep it super simple. That's what I did. That's what I've been doing for the past couple of weeks. I'd be like, how was your Thanksgiving? What did you do? Then I told them what I did. And that started the conversation. And then afterwards, it started to veer more into business, because naturally the person was like, okay, so why don't you actually tell me what you do now? So then we started talking about business. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, speaking about keeping things personal, we had a comment here. Jack.
Well, thank you.
Random LinkedIn user. Loved it.
Thank you.
Do you think, so that was super fun. Thanks everybody for your comments. LinkedIn, and I feel like I've seen this over the last year, and maybe I have LinkedIn fatigue or something, but I've started to wonder, is the platform saturated? Are people becoming jaded somewhat to the, and it's become a meme in some areas of like, oh, I'm posting this overly inflated thing about my job or what I do or how wonderful my company is. Do you think there's a cynicism that's starting to take over? And I don't know, what's your take on that?
So I actually have two parts to this answer. The first is the actual mindset that you have to have going into LinkedIn, because if you have a positive mindset and you're looking at this like, this is a chance for me to either build my business, if I have one, if you're a healthcare executive, or represent my company. So if you're a healthcare executive working for a big hospital, represent my company. Or if you have your own consultancy or your own practice and you want to build that out, you have to view this as a way to meet new people. This is like in-person networking, but nationally and at scale. So that's number one. So attitude is altitude. So if you're going to have that positive mindset that comes from within, then you are going to attract, I would say, the right people. The people who are naysayers on LinkedIn, there are 3 dots in the top right-hand corner. I literally click on that and I put not interested. So I'm telling LinkedIn, I don't want to see that kind of information. That's number one. Then the second answer to your question is, this is more like the statistical numbers. So there are 1.2 billion with a B users that are on LinkedIn worldwide. So, and the platform is growing, because when I started doing the LinkedIn stuff, it was 1 billion and now it's already 1.2. So it's only going to continue growing. That's number one. Number two, of the total users, approximately 300 million use LinkedIn monthly. So they log on at least once a month. And then of those 300 million, only 3 million of those 300 million post at least once a week. So that's 1%. So if you post one time a week, you're automatically in the top 1% of LinkedIn users. So in my opinion, there's still so much, yeah, exactly. There's still so much evergreen opportunity out there to really grow on LinkedIn. And I think that the fact also that LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft, I think that also adds an additional advantage, because Microsoft is going to continue to invest in the platform because it is an arm of their enterprise. So
Okay. So yeah, it seems like it's here to stay. Man, this has been a really awesome
yeah, it
conversation.
flew by.
It's flown by, and I believe that it's so relevant for all of us, and I'm sure that everyone's going to get a lot of usefulness out of this. Sheikh, how can if someone wants to learn from you and connect with you? I think I know what your first answer is going to be. How should they find you, and how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, best way to contact me is definitely through LinkedIn. My profile is public and my DM inbox, my direct message inbox is always open. So feel free to send me a message. Would love to connect with you and get a conversation going. And then the other way too is by email, scmedicalmedia@gmail.com. But LinkedIn is still the best.
Okay, sounds great. Awesome. Well, Sheikh, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll have to go hat and pen shopping
Yes.
when you're in Texas.
Sounds good, Mike. Take care.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to end the stream here. Well, that brings this episode of Healthcare Leadership Live to a conclusion. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show on your podcast app and share it with someone who would value the content. I promise to bring you more guests and content to help make you a better healthcare clinical leader. I also invite you to subscribe to my HR newsletter for healthcare leaders. You can find information about that at seasoned-advice.com. Now go out there and lead with confidence. Greetings and welcome to Healthcare Leadership Live. This is the podcast for healthcare leaders who want to level up their healthcare leadership, create better cultures, and improve their financial results in their clinics. Now, let's join the show.